my friend Professor Biren Kumarji, who I consider to be any day leaders in their fields, and hence would like to pay my heartfelt regards and gratitude and utmost respect before I proceed further. Talking on Engineers Day, I would first like to pay my respect and tribute to Sri M. Visvesvaraya, who is known to be the greatest engineers of all times, who with his vision and dedication in the field of engineering made some exceptional contributions to the India. Owing to his contribution, he was honored with the highest state award of India, the Bharat Ratna, in the year 1955. Some of the contributions of Sir M. Visvesvaraya: he was the chief engineer during the construction of Krishna Sagar Dam on Kaveri River. Many dams built by him in Bombay are still functional even today. The Sri Jai Chamaraj Polytechnic Institute of Bangalore was started on the recommendation of Sir Visvesvaraya. The block system was invented by him, which was a system of automated doors that closed in the conditions of overflow. Krishna Sagar Dam, built by his help, is still praised by everybody witnessing it. Mysore University, which is a matter of great pride for the people of Mysore and Karnataka, was established because of his will and conviction. He was known for his punctuality, perfect clothing, perfectionist attitude, fitness, dedication to work, and fearless patriotism. On this day, I would also like to remind all my fellow engineers that it is engineers and technocrats who have enabled vast development that have happened in this world from times immemorial. Engineering is one of the key influences that shapes our society. Humans always tend to ease their life and improve their quality of life. From where do these crucial factors for ease and quality come? These are all incredible ideas. Science is there to debate these ideas and check them theoretically and experimentally. However, engineers apply them in the real world. Engineers do design, invent, or analyze these applications according to society needs. And I can say, without engineers, science is just a philosophy. In the 18th century, the first industrial revolution caused major changes in industries by utilizing steam power. Electric power and assembly line for mass production made the second industrial revolution. Computers and information technology were integrated into manufacturing, and the different computer-aided systems were produced in the third industrial revolution. Just imagine what all this did to the world. The productivity increased several thousand times. Barring these, man would have still been in the native stages, just gathering food and satisfying its basic needs of survival, like all other animals on this planet. It is engineering and science which help the society to an extent that today a mere about 1 billion people work in the agricultural sector. About 28% of the population employed. This is down from 44% in 1991 and maybe about 70 to 75% in coming centuries. What it signifies is that we would still have been running and solving problems of roti, kapda and makan if engineering has not helped in improving productivity. The voyage from England to India via the Cape of Good Hope took 6 months at least, and you might have another 3 or 4 months of traveling to do before reaching your final destination. Before the advent of aircrafts and modern means of commuting and communication, replies to letters, therefore, could well take over a year and a half to receive. Does this even look real today, with travel time reduced to a few hours and communication time of less than maybe a few seconds on emails and WhatsApp today? For those who may not know, India has had a rich heritage of science and technology. To make my point, let me relate an old fact. On March 21st, 1916, Ibrahim Rahimullah moved a resolution in the Viceroy's Legislative Council for appointment of a commission to report on the measures that should be adopted for the growth and development of industries in India. And towards the same end, he urged that the fiscal autonomy should be granted to the Indian government as an essential step. The Industrial Commission was constituted with the following members: Sir T.H. Holland as the President, Mr. Alfred Chattard, Member, Honorable Sir Fajul Bhai Karim Bhai, Member, Mr. Edward Hopkinson, Member, the Honorable Mr. C. Low, Member, Honorable Pandit Madan Mohan, Malviyaji, Member, Honorable Sri Sir Rajendranath Mukherjee, Member, the Right Honorable Sir Horek Karjan, Member, Honorable Sir Francis Hogg Stewart, Member, Dorabji Jamsetji Tata, Member, R.D. Bell, ICS Secretary. This committee went ahead to pen the report, which comprised of nearly 300 pages, which included nearly 50 pages of an independent note by Malviyaji. The Commission's report, besides all its critical observation and documentation, gave the following two proposals: that in the future, government must play an active part in the industrial development of the country, with the aim of making India more self-contained in respect of men and material. That it is impossible to undertake that part unless provided with educated administrative equipment and forearmed with reliable scientific and technical advice. Perhaps these 2 points appeared as a faint rays of hope to Mahamana Pandit Madan Mohan Malviyaji, which should have reinforced his sankalp for building an educational institution which will not only equip the Indian youth in the technology, engineering, science, etc. of the day, along with the copious injection of wisdom from the Indian youth. Malviyaji coherently conveys in his note that there has been a major scale devastation of 3 long-standing and well-flourishing industries of India, namely, and I quote, the cotton and textile industry, the iron industry, ship making and shipping industry. He starts with Professor Weber, who was the author of the history of India, and Malviyaji quotes him while referring the cotton industry of India. Professor Weber says, and Malviyaji quotes, the skills of the Indians, says Professor Weber, in the production of delicate woven fabrics, in the mixing of colors and working of metals and precious stones, the preparation of essence, and in the all manner of technical arts, has from early times enjoyed a worldwide celebrity. There is evidence that Babylon traded with India in 3000 BC. Mummies in Egyptian tombs dating from 2000 BC have been found wrapped in Indian muslin of the finest quality. Thus, it may be safely concluded that in India, the arts of cotton spinning and cotton weaving were in a high state of proficiency 2000 years ago. Cotton weaving was only introduced to England in the 17th century. Malviyaji goes on and gives copious evidence to show the glory of the cotton industry, that not only thrived in India but also traded with hinterlands both near and far. He next takes up the glorious industry of iron, melting, casting and molding, and this time quotes from 1892 essays of Ranade, who had quoted Professor Wilson, which had the following to quote: the iron industry not only supplied all local wants, but it also enabled India to export its finished products to foreign countries. The quality of the material turned out had also a worldwide fame. The famous iron pillar near Delhi, which is at least 1500 years old, indicates an amount of skill in the manufacture of wrought iron. The Indian steel found once considerable demand for cutlery even in England. The manufacture of steel and wrought iron had reached a high perfection at least 2000 years ago. Ranade Essays on Indian Economics says, and the glorious shipbuilding and seafaring industry, Malviyaji quotes the Governor General Lord Wellesley, who while reporting to the then authorities of Lidhall's Street in London 1800 had observed and articulated the following. The port of Calcutta contains about 10,000 tons of shipping built in India, of a description calculated for the conveyance of cargoes to England. Malviyaji draws from copious sources to draw the committee's attention towards the glorious industrial past of India. Then a natural question arises as to why it declined and what was the need for the committee. Malviyaji analyzes the reasons for the decline, and for that too he draws evidences from the colonial officers. Having given a glimpse of three continuous flourishing of Indian industries, Malviyaji puts forth the arrangements, again by quoting British and other officers, to highlight the gradual decline of these three vital industries after the formation of the British East India Company. Malviyaji refers to the history of England in the 18th century, written by one Lecky, who has the following to say. At the end of the 17th century, says Lecky, great quantities of cheap and graceful Indian calicoes, muslins, and chintz were imported into England, and they found such favor that the woolen and silk manufacturers were seriously alarmed. Acts of Parliament were accordingly passed in 1700 and 1721, absolutely prohibiting, with a very few specified exceptions, the employment of printed or dyed calicoes in England, either in dress or in furniture, and the use of any printed or dyed goods of which cotton formed any part. Malviyaji gradually marches ahead and walking us through several decades. He cites the observations of Clive as recorded in the economic history of British India by Ranade. He quotes the following from the book. When Clive entered Murshidabad, the old capital of Bengal, in 1757, he wrote of it. In the first 4 years of the 19th century, says Mr. Ramesh Datta, in spite of all prohibitions and restrictive duties, 6 to 15,000 bales of cotton piece goods were annually shipped from Kolkata to the United Kingdom. The figure rapidly fell down in 1830. The opening of trade to private merchants in that year caused a sudden rise in 1850, but the increase was temporary. After 1820, the manufacture and export of cotton piece goods declined steadily, never to rise again. Malviyaji elicits those strong evidences in the form of prior committee reports or officers' testimony that unequivocally shows that by the conspiracy of ill-suited policies, the otherwise flourishing industries of India were gradually decimated, and the country as a whole was pushed towards the agrarian model for the large part of its economy. He quotes the civil servant and economic historian Ramesh Datta from his book titled Economic History of India. If above shows us now the genesis of the decay in Indian textile industry, not very different stories about the decay of the ship making as well as shipping industry of India as well. Mahamna quotes one Mr. Taylor, who has said, the arrival in the port of London of Indian produce in India built ships created a sensation among the monopolists which could not have been exceeded if a hostile fleet had appeared in the Thames. The shipbuilders of the port of London took the lead in raising the cry of alarm. They declared that their business was on the point of ruin, and that the families of all shipwrights in England were certain to be reduced to starvation. Mahamna strikes right at the root of the problem and shows very clearly the devastating nature of such policies of that time. Had it not been the genius of Malviyaji, the past glory of India's industry and the detrimental policies of the British officers that curtailed the growth of the Indian industries would never have seen the light of the day. While summarizing the topic of Indian industries, Sunset Days, Mahamana takes recourse to the observation of Professor H. Wilson, paragraphed in the book by Ramesh Datta, and following is the content. It was stated in evidence that the cotton and silk goods of India up to the period could sold for a profit in the British market at the price from 50 to 60% lower than those fabricated in England. It consequently became necessary to protect the latter by duties of 70 and 80% on their value or by positive prohibition. Had this not been the case, had not such prohibitory duties and decrees existed, the mills of Paisley and Manchester would have been stopped in their outset and could scarcely have been again set in the motion, even by the power of steam. They were created by the sacrifice of the Indian manufacturer. With all this background in mind, Malviyaji was clear that for a strong nation, one requires a strong industry, and for a strong industry, one requires a strong engineering prowess. With that vision, he went on to Banaras Hindu University and Banaras Engineering College, Benko, and thus the Banaras chapter of Institution of Engineers should look at how to take this tradition of excellence of engineering and technology rooted in the rich heritage of India to the future. We all know that we are in the midst of a fourth industrial revolution now. The fourth industrial revolution involves the heavy use of automation and data exchange in manufacturing environments. The new systems utilize the advanced technologies such as cyber physical systems, the Internet of Things, 3D printings, and advanced analytics and cloud computing, and so on, and is creating a new paradigm. On one hand, we are faced with the need to modernize, and on the other, we need to ensure sustainability. We need to find solutions to environmental issues, climate change, etc., which are creating imminent danger of making human race extinct. We also have the sustainable development goals to achieve, where we can eradicate poverty, inequality, and many other ills of the modern world. India is a developing nation of 1.3 billion. It has its own unique problems and need to find its own solutions. Of course, India is rich in natural resources, be it educated human resource, mineral resources, fertile land, water, solar energy, wind energy, etc. In spite of these, for several types of use in agricultural, domestic, industrial, and strategic sector are being imported. Besides these, some mundane items like decorative LED lamps, mobiles, toys, etc. are being imported. So I would like to highlight some points. It is the high time for engineering fraternity to rise to the Atmanirbhar Bharat call of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji. Intensive engineering intervention is required in following areas to improve the life of common masses and generate employment. Though India has become an exporter of food grains, however, the Indian agriculture and farmers are still facing the problems of vagaries of nature. There is need to develop new technology for reducing water consumption in irrigation, green fertilizers, and pesticides in place of chemical fertilizers and pesticides and insecticides. Cost-effective warehouses, AC or non-AC, for storing agricultural produce and grains for longer period without deterioration. Value addition to perishable produce like fruits and vegetables. Another sector where engineering intervention is required is the energy sector. This is essential for eliminating or reducing environmental pollution and reducing the carbon emission. Import of crude petroleum is increasing every year. That is draining our foreign exchange reserves, but also affecting our energy security due to uncertain political situation in most of the petroleum crude producing and exporting countries. There is an urgent need to develop technology for harnessing Indian coal by converting it to cleaner fuels like gas and methanol. Likewise, the abundant mass of agro-waste and other waste biomass, including municipal solid waste that are not being properly disposed and managed, can be a good source of energy through decentralized gasification generating systems. We are still depending on China for solar panels and on the Netherlands for wind turbines. The material scientists, metallurgists, structural engineers, and chemical engineers should join hands for developing materials and designing and manufacturing solar panels and windmills. For water, India is dependent on rainwater, surface water from rivers and lakes and groundwater. Most of the precipitation comes during the 3 months of rains, which causes yearly floods. Very little gets infiltrated to the groundwater strata. Further, the available water is also getting polluted. Engineering intervention is required for efficient rainwater harvesting, inter-river transfer of water during rainy season to the extent possible, and low-cost techniques for cleaning polluted, contaminated water to make it potable. Technologies are also needed for reducing water consumption and promote recycling in agriculture and industries. Development of new building materials for cost-effective and durable houses are required to provide houses to millions of homeless people. In spite of considerable improvement in rail and road connectivity, several areas of the country are still unconnected. There is a need to improve the connectivity. Efforts need to be made to develop technology for using fly ash, red mud, building demolition rubble, waste tires and tubes, etc. for this purpose. The telephone connectivity has improved considerably. However, the connectivity is not very good in remote areas. This is putting rural masses, including students, at a disadvantage. Bridging this digital divide is a must to improve education and life in rural areas. These are the problems where engineers need to intervene. Also, for this to happen, we need to bring up a good crop of technocrats. It pains me to see that the best of our institutions are still not creating innovations and innovators. We are still producing 50 patents per million as against 8,000 by South Korea, 6,000 plus by China, and 2,000 plus by Germany, etc. I am pained that the pride in being an engineer for solving some of the problems facing humanity is still not evident. I still see industry and academia working in their own silos. My vision of India is an India which is at the cutting edge of innovation. I wish to see new research coming out from our institutions. We need to stop being in the mindset of followers. We need to innovate. We need to lead. We need to create knowledge which the world can follow. We need new discoveries coming out of India. We need to see our professors and teachers bring in new research. We need to dominate the list of Nobel laureates. We need to come out with fragile innovation which suits the needs of our vast population. We need to resurrect our past glory and be the Sonic Ichiria that we were. We are first followers or leaders in our minds, and I wish to see that transition happening and wish to see it beginning from Varanasi and Banaras Hindu University. We thus need to make a concerted effort to make engineers and engineering fraternity realize that they need to be at the cutting edge of innovation, and it is they who can drive this nation to become self-reliant and take a leadership position in the world. Thank you. Jai Hind.